So what this presentation is kind of showing you what steps you should take in filling out this. This is the pre-writing organizer. And so this sheet, what it does is it articulates to you, or at least it helps you organize your ideas. So up here, this is like the baby version of your thesis, right? This is the beginning stage of your thesis statement. Like, why? Why are these stories still being told? What do you see here? And so what I did is I did this assignment, but I did it using not Odyssey and House on Mango Street. I did it using Most Dangerous Game and To Kill a Mockingbird. So you'll notice that what I did before I filled this part out is I completed a list of all of these values or beliefs that I see happening. And some of these are kind of silly, like they're not good. So for example, like male fighter. I don't know if that's particularly good, so I just kind of crossed it out. But I put it on there because I needed to do some brainstorming. Other ones that I thought they both have strict rules and restrictions, right? So Rainsford was operating under the with Zaroff and Atticus kind of had these strict quote unquote rules of society. So I saw that, but I don't know if that's the reason why. So I'm not sure. But I wrote it down because I saw that that's something that I see in both of them. That is some type of maybe a belief revolving around these strict rules and restrictions. So what I ended up going and identifying, what I thought I could write a good paper on, was this concept of perseverance and this idea of the underdog or this unlikelihood to succeed, right? So the sheet says it's like the beginning stage of your thesis statement. So what I'm going to do is I've got these ideas. I'm going to see if I can actually formulate a thesis statement. Like the prompt is asking about like why these stories are still read today. How does it relate to audience? And so my first draft is this. These stories continue to be told because people like underdogs and they like stories of perseverance. So, like you can immediately see, I've got this idea of the underdog and I've got the idea of perseverance. But you'll notice this is pretty close to this. I mean, this is a Bing Bang Bongo. I like these stories because there's underdogs and there's perseverance. Like, those are just two topics. And while this does show that you're seeing a relationship, it does not show nuance, meaning complexity. It's basically just listing off two attributes of both of the stories. You want to articulate, like, what is it about these ideas that continue that people in the Western world continue to read these texts, right? So this is my beginning, but I definitely said no. Not good, and so I crossed this out, right? Because I don't want a Bing Bang Bongo. The thesis, or the rubric does say that my thesis needs to be sophisticated, complex, right? So a Bing Bang Bongo is coherent, and sometimes it might be identifiable. Frankly, this thesis statement that I have, this one right here, this one is more on the identifiable. Right? It's and a little bit of coherence. Like it's literally straddling the line between the two. So I'm sure you're asking, Ms. Hain, what does a good thesis statement look like then? How can I do this? Well, what I need to do is what the rubric says I need to do is I need to take a look at how things should be organized, right? The organization enhances the central idea. The order and the structure is compelling and moves the reader through these ideas. So what this means is you're not using Bing Bang Bongo just to say that's first and that's second. Instead, you're showing that you understand how your paragraphs or your ideas relate to each other. They're not just two individual ideas. It's not just an individual idea of an underdog and an individual idea of perseverance. How are these two things related? So you'll notice that what I did is the actual thesis that I am sticking with is this right here. So as stories of the underdog persevering against insurmountable odds encourage and motivate audiences, both The Most Dangerous Game and To Kill a Mockingbird continue to be read. So you'll notice that I've got my two topics that I had on the previous page listed here. I've got this idea of underdog and then this perseverance, right? But I'm showing that it's not just persevering and underdog. I'm saying it's what the underdog does. It's not just the fact that there is an underdog. It's the fact that the underdog does the persevering. So I'm showing the relationship between the two. But you'll also notice that I have this: encourage and motivate audiences. Why did Ms. Hain include that? Who cares? Why is that a big deal? Is it just funsies? It's just there for fun. Actually, the reason it's there is because your assignment is to articulate why these are still being read, right? And so I'm not just saying like these stories are related because they have underdogs and these underdogs persevere. Instead, oh, there's a sneeze coming. Never mind, it's not coming anymore. Rather than saying that they just have these two things, I'm saying they have these two things, and this is why people continue to read, right? So whereas this thesis statement, what this thesis statement did is simply tell me what these two stories have. It has underdogs, and it has perseverance. Instead, what I'm doing here is I'm telling you that it's got there's underdogs and perseverance, but it's also encouraging and motivating audiences, right? So I'm saying these two things are present, and that's why they continue to be read. Like, these two things are present, so it encourages and motivates audiences, and that's why it's read. Now, I need to think critically about how I want to organize my paper. What comes first? Well, you'd automatically say like, well, you put underdog first, and so that's what has to go first. Not necessarily. So I have to see, how are these related? Okay. It just so happens that I see that I need to clarify that readers do like underdogs. That's what I need to do first, right? I listed underdog first here, and now I'm seeing that I should probably organize this as such as well. So I've articulated that readers root for the underdog. Okay, they like the underdog. Okay. So what I've done here is I've identified a couple pieces of evidence that I could use, right? So I was just jotting this down like, okay, where is that from the To Kill a Mockingbird? So I'm saying like, oh, the town disapproves of Atticus fighting for Tom Robinson, right? So that's him being the underdog, like people don't want him to succeed. Where would I find that evidence? How could I use that in the text? Well, what I say here is like, oh, like, maybe I'll say when Scout hears the people at the trial. Oh, that's a good piece of evidence to show that he's an underdog. People don't want him to succeed. And so like that's my piece of evidence. So here I've also listed like, I gotta find some page numbers because I don't know where that's at. But I started with this idea and then I said, here's what I could probably use to support that. Then what I found in Most Dangerous Game is that when people root for the underdog, I talk about how Rainsford is the underdog because even though he's an expert when it comes to hunting, he has a lack of provisions. So like the dude's at a disadvantage. He's got literally nothing where Zaroff has got guns, right? So like this is something that I could use, and then I've got, oh, what evidence could I use for that? Oh, that's probably when Zaroff actually tells him about the game and what he gets, right? And so he's got no choice but to participate. Again, I don't have page numbers, I just know. I know that's in the text. So I can find these page numbers later. This does not ask for page numbers, it just asks you to start getting these ideas ready. Right? So here I'm talking about underdogs. I've got the idea from I've got the idea from one text and I've got the idea from another text, just like I have here. What you'll notice is missing is that there is very little, if any, commentary. So there's no commentary because you have to write that, right? And in this case, commentary has to tell me why would that be something that makes them root for the underdog? So I'm showing how he's the underdog, but my commentary needs to explain why does that mean people would root for him? Same thing down here. I don't have commentary. I need to explain how this would help us root for the underdog, right? So I don't have any commentary. I just know that, okay, my topic sentence or my idea, my reason is going to help me point to my commentary. Now I've got evidence. Okay, now I can work on the commentary. And if you take a look at the next one, so I've talked all about this concept of like readers and underdogs. So I've clarified, I've shown where the text has an underdog, right? Both To Kill a Mockingbird has underdogs, and so does Most Dangerous Game. But note, I didn't say anything about persevering because that's my next paragraph. And again, I have to pay attention to how these ideas are related. So I don't just say like, oh, they also persevere. So I point out that these underdogs persevere, but again, I kind of bring up this inspiration. So they are underdogs, yet they persevere, which causes the audience to be inspired. Like, I can't just say like they persevere, because then all of a sudden, like, I'm kind of like, so what? Who cares? Instead, I'm saying that first I have to clarify there are underdogs. Then, so that's what my previous paragraph is. Then I need to show how why those underdogs are important. Well, because they persevere. Again, what's my evidence from To Kill a Mockingbird? Well, I jotted down like his perseverance. Oh, there's threats. There's threats against Atticus and his own children. And then, so that's one thing that I could use. And then I start to think about like, okay, what actual evidence could I use here? So when the lynch mob, oh, it says mod. Lynch mob, I could use that. Also, when the children are attacked, I could use that. And the perseverance there. But I don't know, like it says combine this evidence. Maybe I'll just use the lynch mob. List mod. But like at least I have ideas where I could use this, right? So I've brainstormed and thought of different ideas where I could use evidence to support this concept of perseverance. Also, then I look down to Most Dangerous Game. Rainsford defies death more than once to escape Zaroff with his life. So here I'm saying like, oh, even though he's the underdog, he is able to get away with, or he perseveres through this. And then I'm thinking like, oh yeah, when he's freaking out in the tree, like, right? So like you totally thought he was going to die, but he continued to work beyond that. And again, I don't have page numbers, so I got to find that. So I've got that evidence. I've got ideas of what evidence I could use. So again, notice how there's no commentary. Commentary is missing. And so that commentary is going to relate to why this perseverance inspires people. All right? So how does it inspire? Why am I talking about that? Because that's what I write in my topic sentence up here. That's what I have already written up here. So I know that my commentary is going in this direction. Okay? So I only used 2 of those boxes. Notice how this one has 3. Yeah, of course you could potentially have 3. But hey, I only needed 2. I have a feeling that my paper is going to be long enough with just 2. Now this down here asks like, why is it important to consider? Why is this important to write about or to consider? Like, why does it matter that these are still being read? So what I did is I just jotted down some ideas. Why does this matter? Well, when I look at the bottom here, so people search for stories. I say people search for stories that will teach them. Oh, so they want to be taught how to surmount hardships and teach them to keep working for what they want. Oh, they want that. Okay, people like this. Audiences will walk in the same footsteps, so it teaches them. Oh, gotcha. So the audiences will walk in the same footsteps as characters like Rainsford and Atticus Finch, since they know how someone who wins acts. So, okay, is it very well worded? Not really, but I am brainstorming. Okay, so people want to see this so that they know how to surmount these odds as well. Gotcha. So they want to see an underdog because they relate to the underdog. They want to see perseverance because they want to be taught how to persevere. That's why it's important. So overall, I've just done a brief brainstorming so that I know I'm on the right track, or at least I know where I'm going to be going in my paper. And so this presentation was intended to let you know that Bing Bang Bongo, poop-tastic. You should start doing some brainstorming on what are some different values and beliefs. Develop a thesis, but avoid Bing Bang Bongo. try to have a thesis statement that instead shows a relationship between the things that you brainstormed. Don't just say, oh, I'm going to talk about this perseverance and